What a way to end the game seven. OT winner by Artemi Panarin, the beauty, the Russian. Vladimir Putin's not happy, but we are. The Rangers, like we predicted, or
Oh
me
boy.
predicted, Luca did not predict this, that the Rangers were going to win this series. Luca said that the Penguins were going to take it. We just want to take the time to say that the Penguins were fantastic in this series despite the injuries they endured. Raquel, Crosby, Jari, the Smith, the Ming coming in relief for those guys played pretty solid for the most part. And this is most likely the last time we're going to see Malkin, Letang, and Crosby, the original core together. These guys won three Stanley Cup together. Malkin and Letang are UFAs, and we highly doubt that both of them stay. One of them will walk, and my bet is Letang. But this was a fantastic series for people to watch. The Rangers come up on top, and they will face the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round. The last time they faced each other was in the bubble. And Luca, if I'm not mistaken, you were saying that the Rangers got swept by the
Yeah.
Hurricanes. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was four
Yeah,
nothing.
then again, the Rangers are a completely different team compared to last time. They have Lafreniere this time. They have Andrew Kopp, who they acquired at the deadline. Chris Kreider is having a fantastic career year. They have Igor Shesterkin. It's not Lundqvist and Nets anymore. They have Ryan Reeves, so you add some aggressiveness there and playoff experience. Frank Vetrano, who came from Florida, who's been very impressive with the Rangers. Seems like a great fit. Tyler Mott as well as an addition. And I could go on with this list, but K'Andre Miller is playing some great hockey too. Um, we all know that Zibanejad was the best player for the Rangers. I know Luca was not really impressed with the Rangers compared to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which you favored to win this series. Um, but guys, what are your thoughts heading into this series? Do you think the Rangers can defeat the Hurricanes, or do you think the Hurricanes are gonna defeat the Rangers?
Well, I think we talk about the Rangers and we look at this kind of series between them and the Penguins, and then we analyze the Carolina series. I think with Carolina, one of the things that was really interesting is the fact that they came up against a Bruins team that didn't really look good in the first couple of games, but kind of found their feet as the series went on. And I think with the Rangers, they kind of found their feet a little bit in Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7. I think there's going to be a closer series than I think people give it credit for. Look, I slept on the Rangers in round number one. I did. I chose the Pittsburgh Penguins, but that's just because I believed, and I still do believe that if Jerry was there from game one, I think this series is different. But in terms of where they're at now, I think the Rangers look. We saw how good Shesterkin was, and I know that his numbers don't really show it, at least stats wise. But in Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7, Shesterkin made some big saves that I think really helped the Rangers in this series, and I think that that's going to be the deciding factor, I think, in this series with Carolina. We know that Carolina is a good team, and obviously Slavin and D'Angelo have been really, really good. Trocheck's had a really good playoffs as well. As you know, Taravainen is there.
Slavin's currently leading them in points in the playoffs.
Yeah,
A defenseman, imagine
that's
that.
it. And so that's going to be really interesting to see. But I think in terms of that, this is going to be a goaltending situation. And the reason I say that is because Freddie Anderson didn't play a single minute in the series against the Bruins for Carolina, and so it's going to be Antti Ranta likely starting game one unless things have changed between now and then. And I think that that's going to be the ultimate decider. The Rangers haven't necessarily come up against a really good goaltender yet in this series. They faced Jarry tonight, but besides that, they really had Louis Domingue. So I think the question is going to become, like I said before, is whether or not if a guy like Freddie Anderson does come back, are the Rangers still going to be able to perform at that level where they'll be able to beat Carolina? And I think for Carolina, it's going to be a question of if they don't get Anderson back, are they going to be able to keep up their strong play that they've had up until this point? Because they almost blew that series against the Bruins. So it's two teams, coming off game sevens that I think are going to have a point to prove here. And I think the Rangers have
Well,
even
don't
more of a
forget,
point.
Antti Ranta got injured at one point during the series.
Yeah,
So they
They had
depleted. They
Kochetkov.
had a third string goalie at one point, which was a common trend in the first round.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh were one of those teams who had a third string goalie for the most part of their series.
yeah.
The Nashville Predators as well. So very strange
But
round one in terms
but
of goaltending.
one thing I want to say there, just in terms of the third string goaltenders, I think one of the things that we notice is that, like you said, I think there's a lot more injuries this year. But I think now, you're kind of starting to see the teams like get healthy, right? Like we saw Jerry come back tonight. Hopefully, we see Freddie Anderson at some point in the playoffs for Carolina. But going back to kind of what I was saying, I think Carolina, in terms of depth, I think they beat the Rangers in that category, and people might disagree with me on that. I just think that they've got an all-round better team. But in terms of, I think, where they're at, I think the Rangers have better goaltending regardless of whether Anderson comes back or not. And like I said, if Shesterkin can find that Vezina caliber goaltending in him that we saw during the regular season, then I think the Rangers can go definitely really far. Chris Kreider's been fantastic. Zibanejad's been outstanding for the Rangers through these
Andrew Kopp,
playoffs.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I would say that acquisition and the Claude Giroux acquisition were the two best trades at the trade
yeah.
deadline.
And
So
Panarin too's had, he's had his ups and downs, but I think even for Panarin, he scores the overtime winner tonight to send the Rangers through, and that's exactly what you need when your big guys are stepping up, when your star players are stepping up. It's a good sign, and Panarin's done that, and Adam Fox too. I haven't talked enough about him, but he's been really good in this series as well. So the Rangers and their big boys are stepping up, and now I think it's time to see what they're going to do in round two,
what I like
and
about this series, sorry to cut
full
you
marks.
off, but like
Yeah,
both
that's all
these
good.
teams are offensively gifted, not only on their forwards, but also on their defense. You're gonna
Yeah.
have Tony D paired up against Adam Fox, two very offensive minded
Well,
defensemen.
Well, I think what's interesting too about that is, like, I think, I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, but I think D'Angelo and Slavin play together, which if they do, you've got a two-way defenseman in Jacob Slavin playing with an offensively gifted defenseman in Tony D'Angelo. That can definitely work. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see. But I want to know Chris's opinion. I know that he chose the Rangers in this first round, so I want to know, what's his thoughts on this series and moving forward for both teams.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't there for the Carolina video, but I actually
Yeah.
have them passing through on my bracket challenge too. So I actually think this is gonna go to game seven, because
Mm,
I think it's pretty evenly matched. I'm even, like, like you guys said, it comes down to the goaltending at
I
the end
say
of the
six
day.
to seven games, so I'm
But
on the same
I
page.
do believe it's gonna go into seven, because Carolina's got some sleeper trades that they've done. Like Max Domi is playing phenomenal hockey with
Mr.
Speaking
Game
of
Carolina.
7.
Max Domi, he was the highlight of Game 7 versus the
Yeah.
Bruins. He had 2 goals and 1 assist. He had a fantastic game. And speaking about, like, depth players, you have Frank Vetrano, who was an acquisition by the Rangers, who has found this game once again with the Rangers. He's playing like he did the first couple of years he did with the Florida Panthers. He was not a fit and he fell out of favor with the Florida Panthers. He goes to the New York Rangers, and it seems like there's a resurgence. Same thing
Yep.
with Max Domi. He's playing some great hockey. Both of them are two guys to look out for in terms of the playoffs and the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, so that's it's pretty impressive on his part of what he's been doing. I mean, uh, like I said, both team have great depth. So yeah, I think at the end of I think it's going to be some pretty close games too. I think it's going to be like 3-2, 2-1, low scoring games.
I don't know if the
Um,
hitting is going to be like that immense, but expect a lot of speed,
yeah,
a
it's going
lot
to
of
be fast
skill.
pace.
It's a
Yeah,
One
very
yeah.
thing
fast-paced series.
one thing I wanted to mention, right? So we talked a little bit about Slavin and D'Angelo, Slavin and D'Angelo both leading the teams in points. What's interesting in Svechnikov and Aho. Now Aho has 5 points in 7 games. Svechnikov has 4 points in 7 games. These guys need to step up in round two if Carolina wants any chance of winning this series. We talked about their big players performing for the Rangers. Carolina's two stars need to step up, and obviously Teravainen has, and obviously Slavin and D'Angelo have too. But you need your star forwards, you need your Sebastian Ahos, and your Svechnikovs. And look, Max Domi's had a really good playoff series up to this point. But one guy that needs to step up for Carolina too, because I think he could help them in the playoffs because he's done it before in with the Canadians, is Jesperi Kotkaniemi. If Kotkaniemi can, you
0
know,
points in 7 games, playing
at a
49
-4,
minutes.
and I think that's the thing with Kotkaniemi. If he can find a way to get some points in this series, then I think Carolina is going to be in a better spot than
Because
they're
he's
already
known
in.
for being a solid playoff performer. He's not the
I
best
Exactly.
think
player in terms of regular season stats, but in the playoffs, he really stepped up his game with the Habs against Philly. The series against Philly, he was a very key part to winning games and being on the score sheet. And then against the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he scored the OT winner, and he was paired up with Caulfield and Suzuki at one point. But even during their whole run, Kokaniemi played some good hockey. So I mean, him being scoreless right now, has zero stats in 7 games. It's kind of baffling for me,
It's you know what
honestly.
though, and I think that like it's a compliment to just kind of how good Carolina's been, right? Because I think even in that, like I know Kakanyemi hasn't been good, but I'm saying like they don't really need him to be good because they've done well without him, which I think goes to show you just that Kakanyemi's development in Carolina hasn't been good either. But I think in terms of that, like you go and look at the Carolina Hurricanes, one guy that really stood out to me during the playoffs, Seth Jarvis, 5 points in 7 games. He's a rookie. He's been good. But Vincent Trocek's a guy that really stood out to me as well.
And Tivo
Still a good
Teravainen
player.
as well.
Yeah, Teuvo Teravainen, but those two guys, especially Teravainen and Trocheck, point of games players. 7 points in 7 games for them. And like I said, it goes back to depth and kind of what we said before. And even for the Rangers, I know a lot of people are not super high on him and whatever, but you got to give Alexi Lafreniere a lot of credit. Lafreniere has played a really good playoff series,
Yeah, he
and I think
has.
a lot of people. I know that his points, he's got 4 points in 7 games, but the little things that Lafreniere does, even tonight, I noticed a lot of the times he's on the ice. He draws that he makes that play for the third goal that leads to the Zibanejad tying goal. Like if Lafreniere doesn't make that play, it then obviously it's a different story and we've got a different result here. But and people can argue that it was a penalty, but just in terms of where Lafreniere is, I think his intensity in these playoff series has really helped the Rangers out, and you can see it because he's turned into a completely different player. And if he can continue that in the second round, this is gonna be a really close series. Chris mentioned it's gonna be in 7 games. I agree, 6 or 7 games this series goes, and I don't see a situation where one team sweeps another or it's an easy series for one team.
And
Because
that's going to
again,
be a common trend for all the
yeah,
round two
I agree.
matchups. You have
Yeah,
St. Louis and Colorado. People are saying, "Oh, there's going to be a sweep. There's going to be an upset." Not really. At most, I see them going to 6 or 7 games. Then you have the Battle of Florida, Tampa and Florida. You know, unless Bobrovsky plays like last year and they have to like rely on Spencer Knight, then yeah, maybe it could end in 4 or 5 games. But
yeah,
I highly doubt that. This is a completely different Florida team. Bill Zito improved this team immensely compared to last year, and
I
Bobrovsky
agree.
has been so much better this year. So that's going to be 6 to 7 games. And don't forget, Tampa is not playing the way that Tampa is normally supposed to be playing when they won the 2 Stanley Cups back-to-back years. Don't forget, they don't have Goudreau, Gordon Coleman. They have Belmar, Perry,
Isn't
and Nick Paul. But those guys are doing exceptionally well as well. But don't forget, they're not in the same mold. They don't have that chemistry like those three guys. That what they
is
had was very special. They were essentially the ideal third line. And so I mean, I
okay.
think it's going to be fantastic. And then you have this matchup, 6 to 7 games, and we're waiting on the who is going to face the Edmonton Oilers. We're hoping for a Battle of Alberta because that's going to be
Well,
very very physical.
right now
yeah,
it's
I
one
know.
nothing
Right,
Dallas as
right,
we're
right
recording.
now, out of my whole bracket, that is the only matchup. I said that LA was gonna win, so I mean, I
Yeah,
kind
so
of
here's
that
here's
one
the
got.
thing, right? So here's my thing, right? So I'm gonna make my prediction now, and again, any Rangers fans in here, please don't hate on me. Like I said, I'm gonna go with Carolina here, and the only reason I'm going with Carolina is because on my bracket I have them going to the Stanley Cup final. So because I have them going to the Stanley Cup final, I need to save my bracket. So I'm gonna pick Carolina, but I honestly do genuinely believe that Carolina is gonna win the series. Again, I'm not high on the Rangers, and I know that I know that maybe Ranger fans might think, oh, I don't like them. It's not that I don't like them as a team per se. I just I think I'll be honest with you. I think they're frauds, and I don't think they're as good as they're given credit for. I think a lot
Oh,
of it. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of players overachieving, and that's the truth. I
Well, they
think
have a great coach too. I mean,
no,
Gerard
they do.
Gallant.
They have a
yeah.
good coach, But what I'm saying is, Shesterkin played a
That was
big
a
role in the Rangers.
fantastic ad. I think that was their best out of the
But
season, to be honest.
but
Getting
what I'm
him
saying
as a
is, I
coach.
think I think Shesterkin, played a like obviously kept him in it this season. He's a Vezina candidate. He's probably going to win it, right? And Chris Kreider scores 50 goals. I don't think Chris Kreider does that again. And I know he's done it in the playoffs, and people are like, oh, look at Kreider. Listen, it's a good season for him. I just personally
It's a
don't know
one-time thing for Kreider. He's
And
where
never
guess
they're.
gonna
Yeah,
hit this
and
again.
guess what? Chris Kreider could always slide into their goalie, and like then
that's
that
it, bro.
there's the end of the
I
season
mean,
for
what
Carolina.
goalie? Freddie Anderson's already injured.
Nah, nah, but
If
you know
you
what? Okay,
Ranta's there too, you know.
it's okay because
we'll see how
At least
long that lasts, Ranta. I'm
At
not saying
least
he's a bad
Carolina.
goalie, but he is a backup goalie
Yeah.
in my eyes. He's not a starter. And in terms, you're saying goaltending is gonna take this. I agree, but I also think depth is gonna take this
Okay,
in terms of
my
forwards.
Yeah,
prediction.
but to be honest, I think they have equal. Honestly, their teams are pretty evenly matched. Like,
I'm gonna stick to my prediction of Carolina, but I'm gonna say one thing just so I save myself a little bit too. If Anderson doesn't come back by game 3 or game 4, the Rangers are taking the series. That's my personal opinion. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
unless
going Carolina.
Ranta continues to be hot and
Yeah.
continues to do what he's doing, just for people to have a clear consensus of like what like how these guys are matched up. I know I'm gonna say this like I always say, the regular season stats don't matter, yada yada yada,
Yeah.
but I'm still gonna mention them. 3-1-0 for Carolina versus the Rangers, one
Yeah.
3-0 for the Rangers versus the Hurricanes. But then again, playoffs are a different breed.
Well,
Anything is possible. But again, they had Freddie Anderson for those games. Now they don't. And so I would say
what?
the Rangers have the goaltending advantage in terms of defense. I give that to the Hurricanes. I wasn't too impressed with the Rangers decor during the series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And in terms of offense, I know people are gonna really hate on me on this, but I gotta go to Rangers on this one
oh,
because
Rangers
of
do have the better offense. Come on, you got
because of
Putin's
how
best friend. Come on, guys.
well Lafreniere has been playing in this series, and okay, even to an extent, Capo Caco is
He's
doing.
disappointing. I don't like him. Sorry.
He's doing okay. He's not doing amazing, but
Isn't that 3
because of
points?
Frank Vetrano
3 points.
playing top tier hockey and playing impressive hockey, having 5 points in 7 games. I mean, like, and then you have Ryan Reeves too. I know he's a goon and stuff, but I mean, you need that. You need a guy who's gonna
Can
be
I
there
just
for the
say
forechecks, and he's gonna cause a lot of problems, and even leads to a lot of penalties in terms of the Carolina getting penalties because he's an aggressor, he's a ball buster, right? So I mean, you need that on
can I
your
say
team.
something really quickly about Capo Caco? They should trade him.
He needs a change of scenery,
They should trade
100%.
him.
You
Anyways,
could,
I want to address Stephen Parks' comment here. He goes, Penn should have won. I'm gonna just say this now. I agree, and I kind of like I said at the beginning of the video. I think if Jerry or DeSmith played this series, I think they win this comfortably. I think because Domingue came in, he had a good run at the beginning, and it helped the Rangers. It helped the
Rangers
Penguins.
cheaters.
Well, I think. Look, like I said, it gave the Penguins a good run at the beginning, right? In Game 4, they were up 3-1, but I think the Minx time, especially in Game 5 and Game 6, you kind of
He's an
saw that.
AHL
Okay,
goalie,
he's an
man.
AHL goaltender, exactly.
Fringe backup for the NHL. What more do you really expect from a guy like that? He did the best he can, so
No,
kudos to him.
I'm sure he did. I'm just saying
Yeah,
it definitely costed the Penguins the series, in my opinion.
yeah. The injuries really costed him.
Plus the referees didn't really. And
We're not gonna get into that, but I
let's
just
not get
wanted to
into the
say,
referee part.
I just
I'm
wanted to
just saying.
say, guys, we want to hear your predictions in the comments section below. Don't forget to share your thoughts. We know that you're not going to agree with everything that we say. We've seen that since we started this matchup series that people, are really not happy with our takes sometimes, and then there's people that are really love our takes. It's always open up for discussion. We love these interactions. You guys have your own opinions. We respect your opinions. So don't think we're ever going to get mad unless you insult us. That's a different story. But we just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for following us, for keeping up with the matchup series. Have fun. Enjoy the second round of the playoffs. We have one more matchup to address, which is the winner between the Flames and Dallas facing the Edmonton Oilers, hoping for the Battle of Alberta. But we'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and share this to anybody who loves hockey.